Foster care or adoption, this is one of the most broken portions of our country right now. First of all, it is way too expensive and way too hard to adopt in this country.
Private infant adoption is expensive because it's capitalism at work. It is a supply and demand marketplace. And when you're a private business that's charging money for human beings, you can charge as much as you want when there's 2 million people in line.
If everyone in this room went up to a Republican office holder and say, why don't you talk about adoption every single day? You have a great opportunity. Maybe we can get bipartisan appeal, because if you think about it, if you want to be pro-LGBT, which I am, you should be very pro-adoption, right? I mean, isn't that a natural, I think, synergy? And you think about that, it's way too expensive. The waiting lines are unbelievable. So we have millions of people in America that are waiting for the opportunity to adopt.
You can't have it both ways. If you are empathetic to the cause of the 2 million people waiting in line to adopt a healthy infant, then you can't oppose IVF on moral grounds. Your odds of creating or acquiring a child are better in IVF than they are in adoption, and adoption is generally more expensive. So to restrict these millions of people to only one of these two options, the option that is more expensive and less probable, seems a little dumb.
Foster care system, I don't think government is going to be able to fix that. I really don't. I do think, though, that we as conservatives need to take a much closer look at what does a successful foster care system look like, and the adoption system. And if you actually look at, unfortunately, in some of these inner cities, if a kid goes into a foster home, high likelihood of gang violence. And I mean, if you want to talk about the true prison pipeline, it's in our foster care system. It really is. And that's a really scary thing. And I want to learn more about it, and I want to see exactly what the best way to solve it is. But it's so broken. But government's going to screw it up even further.
Who, if not the government, is going to fix foster care? You think that outsourcing our child welfare system to a private marketplace is going to create better outcomes for children? I don't think people realize this, but we tried that already. Like, go back 100 years in history. Google baby farms. This was a real thing that existed in the United States. Charlie Kirk wants to talk about abortion being a Holocaust. Go look at baby farms in the United States a couple generations ago. Conservatives, at their core, simply do not care about vulnerable children and their families, at least as much as they care about their tax savings. Their lobbying groups will explicitly spell this out. A shift of focus away from adoption to providing struggling families with an adequate social safety net is construed as an anti-adoption talking point. In these right-wing spaces, social safety nets are construed as a threat to adoption, because ultimately they've realized that in countries that actually have social safety nets for vulnerable children and their families, countries have essentially eradicated the need for adoption altogether. As it turns out, vulnerable pregnant people who get support from their governments and communities more often than not choose to raise their own children and don't see the need to give those children to a business who will then sell those children to strangers for tens of thousands of dollars.